You haven't kept these two, and you didn't keep these two operations and the challenges you faced as a private thing, Janina. Do you think that not suffering in silence has really helped your recovery, helped your return?
Actually, I don't. That's an interesting question. At first, I really never wanted to talk about it too much, but I thought it's such a big thing. Why keep it quiet? People are going to suspect all sorts of things, and when they start imagining, really, it's much better to just tell the truth.
Yeah.
But then, you know, right after, it got a little bit excessive, and I started living this over and over and over and over again. People kept asking me, but then, you know, I was beginning to be a bit selfish about it, and so I was saying to Harry, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm sick of it. And you know, he would then show me an email I would have got from somebody who said, oh, well, you know, your story inspired me, or it inspired me to go to another doctor. That happened several times. Mm-hmm. And they had the same thing that I had, and you know, a lot of very good emails that made me feel like I should speak out.
Yeah.
And luckily now it's all more or less died down. But the other thing, I did have a certain amount of pride, and I didn't want the pity factor to enter when I was playing again. And but luckily, very soon after I got back, I had concerts in Poland, and I was playing very difficult, the Moszkowski Concerto, but nobody there knew anything about my arm. Nothing. Oh, okay. And and it went very well. So then my confidence came back, and I thought, well, it's okay.
Excellent. Well, I mean, it is a truly inspiring story, and not just the people who've had parallel injuries or disease or whatever, but just the very spirit of the story is inspiration in itself. I've always thought the words honesty and integrity connected with your musicianship, Janina. You never were one of those pianists who does sort of acrobatics at the piano, so you wouldn't have had to have changed that aspect of your technique, the big hand gesture, that sort of thing.
I even had a bet with Rubinstein once. I was playing the Tchaikovsky Concerto for him and throwing myself around a bit. And he said, I'll bet you $10 you can't play it through without moving. And I, of course, won the bet. But learned the valuable lesson that it's absolutely unnecessary.
But at the same time, it can't have been easy relearning, and I'm sure it isn't easy, relearning repertory with a different range of motion in the arm, and different sort of muscle feeling.
It's wonderful to do that. Of course, there's no arm muscle memory left. The finger memory is, but the arm muscle memory, I had to relearn all these pieces that I knew back to front. Because the arm had to relearn them. But in doing so, it refreshed the pieces so much. In that way, I'm so incredibly grateful for all that happened to me, because I see all the repertoire that I play now in a completely different light. And I'll tell you that my left-hand passages are much more interesting now because I'm paying attention to them. I was before very much a right-hand pianist. Yeah, the theme is everything and the accompaniment sort of accompaniment. But now it's both.
Yeah. Well, I know that 5 years ago when you appeared here, you played the Chopin concertos with string quartet, the way that Chopin is known to have played them. And that in itself was a revelation. The interpretation, yes, it framed it as chamber music, with a very prominent piano part, of course.
Yes, of course.
But it wasn't just prominent piano part with a passive orchestra. Here it was as living chamber music, and that energy was very inspiring. You find this in all the composers you're relearning and rediscovering?
Yes, yes, and I'm very lucky in that I'm able to now just play the music that I want to play. Oftentimes before all of this happened, perhaps I could have then, but I was, you know, a conductor would ask me, would you play such and such a piece? And I would just say yes and learn it, whether I wanted to or not. And now I have to say that I'm much more choosy and find that it's much more agreeable. And I spend a tremendous longer period of time working on certain pieces than I did before, for the simple reason that I can only practice 3 hours a day. or then my muscle gets very tired. So I have to plan years in ahead. For example, I had 3 weeks off in June, and I decided to start playing Liszt again for the 2011 Liszt year. Well, I was actually practicing pieces that I'm going to play in 2011 because I know that next year, the Chopin year, there will be no time. So I do have to really look ahead.
Yeah.
And there's no question, for example, if I have a concert coming up in the old days, if I was a little bit behind on my practicing, well, I would just go to the piano and practice 7, 8, 9 hours and get it done. And I can't do that anymore. So that changes everything. And for the better, at least I look at it that way. Because now it takes me, I have longer periods of time thinking about the pieces that I'm playing, instead of rushing all the time.
Yes. Good. Well, that's a remarkable story, and thank you for sharing it. I know many of us will draw inspiration from it, and I know we're all looking forward to your masterclass and recital in the days to come here at the Festival of the Sound. You can find out more about Janina and read newsletters that Harry's put together about her latest concerts at janinafialkowska.com. And festivalofthesound.ca is where you can find out more about this series of interviews in the 30th anniversary of the festival. I'm Keith Horner. Till next time.
Thank you.